Hi, everyone. It's a very warm welcome to the final webinar for this Future of Business course. I really hope you've all had a productive week so far, and thanks for joining us live. We are coming to the end of our 6-week journey together, as you know, and I'm sure each module has been building on the knowledge and the insights that you've gained from the previous week's material. And of course, for those of you that managed to join our community session last week, I'm sure you had a great time, as much as we did as well. So, as we go through today's webinar, feel free to chime in on how that journey has been for you over the past 6 weeks and where you resonate with what our guest speaker will be sharing today. So, as a quick recap, in module 6, you've all been reviewing what you've been learning throughout the past few weeks, and hopefully you're also planning for your next steps. And we'll talk more about that at the end. But for now, to help us to wrap everything up today, we have invited Alma Martinez, who is the co-founder and director of Unboxed in Mexico. And that's a certified B Corporation and UN Global Compact signatory that helps organizations connect people, planet, and profit to build a new economy where business is a force for good. Alma has over 20 years of experience and has supported more than 250 organizations across Latin America in designing and implementing strategies that enhance their social innovation, sustainability, and impact. Through unboxed strategies that enhance, um, you know, social innovation, and through the consulting and training programs, Alma and her team have activated the agency for change in individuals, organizations, and systems, creating conditions for shared prosperity and long-term transformation. She's a TEDx speaker, a certified triple impact consultant, and has been recognized for her contributions to strengthening Mexico's and Latin America's impact ecosystems. Alma holds degrees and executive certificates in business administration, sustainability, leadership, and circular economy from Harvard University, Georgetown University, and the University of Pennsylvania. And to top it all off, as a fun fact, Alma has actually been in your shoes and was a participant on this very course just a few years ago. So she's definitely the right person to be speaking to us today. Alma, it's such an honor to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm so happy to be back in this space, learning space.
And we're so excited to have you. And without further ado, could you just tell us briefly about your professional journey and the work that you've been doing and what has led to Unboxed and what has happened since then?
Yes, well, I'm gonna try to uh, tell this long story short, but I major in business. And as a student in my college years, one of my most significant experience was spending my spring breaks volunteering in rural communities, uh, very poor communities in the south of the state where I live here in Mexico. Well, after I graduated, I started working in automotive and electronic industry in areas as purchasing and operations, quality assurance. And eventually, I had like this existential crisis around 25, 26 year when I was around that age, asking myself like if what I wanted for my future as a professional was like, feeling this kind of like emptiness, thinking like I'm spending around between 8 to 12 hours a day working here all day long talking about money and profit and reducing costs. And I thought in that moment that I wasn't made for business because I didn't like the way I was part of it. So I decided to change my career path and went back to the university now as a professional on leadership development. So I spent there around nine years working on designing and facilitating leadership development programs for students and also for uh, corporations and executives. with a standpoint from leadership about transformation, how leadership can be transformative for the people and also for the realities where leaders can influence. And that's where I collide with concepts as social entrepreneurs, social innovation, and it started like to make me think like how would I love that in my college years I will hear about these concepts. You know, like I was thinking, well, now this is available for my students, but I would love that it would be available for me, like back in the days. But eventually, I found a movement that it's like the B Corp movement. It's a global movement where people and businesses from all around the world are trying to redefine or working towards redefining what's success means in the business world. And like I remember when I started to read about it, they had this question that said something like, how will the world look if businesses weren't competing just to be the best in the world but the best for the world? And that totally like makes sense to me. And I started to I was very intrigued and wanted to learn more about it and to be part of it. So I think finding that movement and specifically that community that I felt that I can I share values with, and most important, like a vision of what I would like business to be like, made me want to be part of it. So that's how I decided to become an entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur myself. Like saying, how can I be part of this? And they told us, well, uh, it would be great if you think about having a company that model these principles and values and help the movement move forward and facilitate that other businesses around you can uh, move from these like traditional economy principles to this new economy and new ways to use business as a force for good. And that's how we started Unbox, basically.
Wow. I mean, I love the fact that your existential crisis has worked out so well, and it really shifted your whole mindset and your whole life, really, it sounds like. And I think we'd love to hear more about what Unboxed does. But I'm also curious to know at what point you did this course and what that then did for you thereafter, especially given the fact that, many people are well, we're coming to the end of the course, right? This is the final week. And I'm sure many of our learners are wondering what's next. So I know we'll also discuss more of that towards the end. So maybe just speak to us about Unboxed and what the direction is at the moment for Unboxed.
Okay, yeah. Well, Unbox is a social innovation consultancy. We're in the north part of Mexico. And we see ourselves as allies of those leaders and organizations who are looking or working to make a better and greater impact. Um, our services are on the line of consulting and training projects. And through our services and the projects that we engage with our customers, we activate change agency and we look and work towards increasing the positive impact of individuals, organizations, and like from 3 years ago, we are putting a lot of effort and energy in working with systems. Like, how can we contribute to build up and facilitate systems do what they need to do in order to change the outcomes that they are generating. And we have this phrase that it's kind of was what one of our deepest beliefs that our with our work we are inviting others to think about business success, not just about how much money we make, but how we make the money and we're able to share the value of the money that we're making. And well, we can stop right there. If you want to go deeper into like specifically like the process on how we do it, we can go deeper later on the conversation.
Okay. No, you can go ahead. I think it'll be interesting to hear that as
Okay,
well.
well, basically, we do a lot of things. Sometimes it's been hard for us like to explain uh, the possibilities of our work because we're working in the whole social impact spectrum. But I think this can help us to like identify in which moments or how do we do that. We do a lot of work on awareness, like working with organizations and corporations and um, social impact organizations on raise awareness on what is very important now to talk about sustainability and social impact and ESG and all these concepts. Why is this strategic for businesses? You know a lot about what you have seen through this program. Um, and then we also work with companies that are ready to integrate an impact strategy to their business model or to enhance their impact strategy if they are already working towards social impact. And then, like in a deeper level, once our organizations or corporations have a clear impact strategy, we work with them on skill development. Like, what are those skills that our team or the people need in order to achieve those impact goals? Like, for example, companies that are working on sustainable supply chain. How do we train and develop those skills in our people from purchasing or the people in finance in our organizations or like organizations that are have objectives on impact through their marketing strategy? Like how now do we enable our marketing team to be change makers? Like what are those skills? So we develop those kind of programs. We also work with them designing and in the implementation of those impact strategies or initiatives, and also on impact evaluation. Like how do we monitor and evaluate if we are moving or contributing the way that we want to contribute to social challenges. And like on the last part, we eventually want to do with everyone is how do we uh, create spaces to start thinking in social innovation. Like what are those things that nobody has done before or that maybe somebody is doing somewhere else and we haven't tried, you know, in more spaces to innovate and to work like in collective action initiatives. Like it's not just about one organization, but like how several organizations from the same industry or that are working towards the same social impact can start working together. So we developed this model to have a more clear of their understanding on how can we be allies on different moments, like with organizations that are just starting to understand why, through all the way down to organizations or change leaders that are thinking now on innovation.
Okay. Sounds fascinating, and I'll definitely come back to a few more questions, especially around the collaboration and co-creation piece that you mentioned, because that can definitely be a challenge in the corporate sector, especially. But I'm just curious as to the journey that you've described. I know you've said it in a few sentences, and it sounds like it was just a very rosy path. But I can imagine that you face quite a lot of obstacles and challenges and resistance to be where you are today. So maybe if you could just share with us some of those obstacles, how you've overcome them, and you become a fully fledged social entrepreneur.
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest obstacles was being a beginner, like doing this for the first time. I think one of the biggest obstacles is that we have this lack of understanding of our market or who our customer was. When we started, we had this vision, very clear vision, that we wanted businesses to be change agents. But like businesses is something very big. So at the beginning, we thought that businesses was just like business owners or CEOs at the very, you top level of the organization. So we spent a lot of time trying to convince people that they needed what we wanted to do, and that they needed they needed it that much that they should be willing to pay us to do these kind of projects. And we find out, and it took us some years to find out that uh, they didn't actually were our customer, or like our segment, or the people that. Hello?
Yes, yes, we've
I,
got you
I think
back.
I lost my
Yeah.
connection. I'm sorry. I hope now you
Okay.
can hear me better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're
All good.
fine. Okay. I don't know where it was lost.
Sorry, it's breaking a little bit. But I think you had just, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's been cutting off a little bit. Maybe you can just start from the beginning of your response in case other people also missed parts of it.
I lost you for a while, but I think now it's better.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good. So I don't know what was the last thing that was heard.
Maybe you could just go back to the beginning if you don't mind. I think we had heard you speaking about how it's difficult to convince people and, bring them together. Yeah. So maybe just to
Yeah,
pick up from there.
yeah, definitely. Well, and it was because we didn't understand who our customer was. Like later on, we found that talking about businesses and who we really needed to connect was those lonely entrepreneurs that
Mm,
were already convinced and trying to move forward on sustainability and social impact, and that were very lonely inside organizations and needed help, like needed
mm,
an extended team, needed to have more information and somebody to back them up in order to move from the inside of organizations this kind of projects. So it took us a while to understand that, and also from the other side, at the very beginning, we wanted to work a lot with entrepreneurs, but we did have also a lack of understanding on how like entrepreneurs needed, because they did want to work with us, but they didn't have the means or the money to pay for a consultant. So it took us a while to understand, like the whole market.
mm,
And now I can say the system where we wanted to be part of and bring value to find out that there were corporations and social entrepreneurs that wanted to support social entrepreneurs, and then we can be a bridge so these corporations can pay to train social entrepreneurs, and these entrepreneurs and change agents inside of our of corporations and big companies were, the key point and who really needed our services. So it took us a while to understand that. It was one of our biggest obstacles, of course, because this also have a direct impact on sales. So once we understand that, we then could start selling a lot of more projects on social impact. So, and of course, something else, a very important obstacles. Well, on Box, we are three founding members, all of us women, and it was the first time for the three of us to start a company. So, being a beginner and doing something for the first time, it's very challenging, but I think something we that helped us a lot is that we knew we didn't know a lot of things. So we were very open to ask for help and to recognize that there were a lot of new questions for us. And I think something that was very strategic for us and that can be applied to any kind of project or challenge where you feel new at is that we build up this like consultancy board with friends or like mentors that we knew they care about us and wanted us to be successful, that had this experience or skills that we didn't have, like finances or like communication or like those things that we knew we were going to need and weren't part of our experience. So that helped us a lot. And the third obstacle, it had to do with gender because we were three young women trying to advise uh, a lot of businessmen about how to handle their businesses better and like transforming their business mindset to a very focus on just profits to a focus on more like shared value with stakeholders and shareholders. Like, of course, we receive a lot of rejection and like close friends of us told us like, I know my boss will never let a woman to tell him how to handle his business. And at the beginning, it was very frustrating, and I experienced a lot of like anger and frustration. But one of the members of our consultancy board is a very experienced businesswoman, and she was an executive in corporations. And I talked to her about this, and she told me like, you can still mad and be angry with this reality, or you can take advantage of and like empower yourself and embrace that you're a woman and how to turn that into something good and not just be engaging why is it an obstacle. And eventually connecting to the first obstacle, when we started looking not at the very high level in the organization, but to those, like sustainable manager or social impact responsible, or like those social entrepreneurs, we find out that a lot of them were female. So
Okay.
it was very easy to connect with them. So it became an advantage instead
Yeah.
of an obstacle.
Mhm. I like that. Okay. No, that sounds really interesting. I know we're going to have quite a few questions from our learners. And so I just want to remind everyone who's watching live that you can ask Alma anything within reason. But yeah, please feel free. You can type your questions in the comment section that's just under the screen. And also remember to click on the button that's also under the screen to answer yes to the question that you are watching live so that you can get your extra points for that. Okay, so Alma, given this journey that you've been on and all these obstacles and lessons and so on, is there anything that you would change about your approach and your journey to social entrepreneurship? And if so, what would that be and why?
Um, I don't have a clear answer to that because we're just about to turn 10 years old, like on box. And it's been, time to reflect on the journey. And I think even though I can recognize like this uh, lack of information and research that we might did before starting, I think it all was part of the journey and the learning process that we needed to go through in order to find in action what we needed to learn. And
Mm,
of course, we're still in that journey, like every day learning and facing challenges. So there's not really something I will like to change. Maybe accelerate some learning processes, but we're still here and we do have a lot of work. And I guess we now in this point I'm honoring all those things and how we did it
mm,
and how we embrace or how powerful the vision was, that even though everything we thought and planned didn't work the way we thought, the vision has been that powerful that we're still here working
mm.
towards that same vision. So
Right. Okay. I love that answer. And I do hear that quite often, actually, that as much as there have been ups and downs in my journey, I wouldn't change anything because that's what brought me to where I am. And that's maybe that was the only way to have learned some of the lessons and made some of the connections. And yeah, so I totally resonate with that response and that feeling of, if it wasn't for that, perhaps,
yeah.
this wouldn't have been
And
possible.
one of my business partners, she says like, I thank God we didn't knew like the whole thing, because maybe we wouldn't be doing this. Like sometimes
Right.
it's better not to have that like the whole picture
Mhm.
and the whole information, because sometimes you need just hope and engaging in and believing in a vision to jump in, even
Yeah.
though the ups and downs. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have a question from Pia, who's asking, do you think the impact strategy can be integrated into existing organizational strategies, or should it be developed as a standalone strategy?
I totally believe it should be integrated in the business model. uh, I share this conviction that impact is not a thing that you should do aside of the business, but through the business operation. So normally we go through like through the work we do, how can we solve or contribute to solve the challenges of the people that matters to the business? And that includes, of course, shareholders and executives, but also the people that work there, the community around, our customers, our suppliers. So I think the more integrated impact is on the business and operational model, the less tension we create between the business and the impact. And I think that's what we're looking forward.
Right. And you've spoken to connecting with executives and so on. So my next question would be about when it comes to corporates, how have you engaged with them? And what have been some of your successes around that? And maybe some of your failures as well. I think it's also useful to be able to learn from what hasn't worked. So perhaps you can share that with us as well.
Yeah, well, we with corporations we work towards this model. I shared with you before, and there are a lot of stories of success and also some of the failures. And I'm gonna start with the like failures one. We have been through projects where the corporation, like designing a new initiative on social investment, like the corporation has this fund and this money that wants to share with community, and we go through this very deep and expensive process to learn together about the system and to learn about how other corporations in the world are contributing with their community and designing strategies and defining activities. And then suddenly something happens in the world, people in the corporation change, or they need to put like everything in hold. Like that has happened a lot of in the past year or in this year, that they say, we're gonna put or close all of our social impact projects, and thanks for participating, this is not going to move forward. And I think those are like very painful decisions that we sometimes are part of, because you have spent all these resources and time and learning, and we already have like this vision on how amazing impact you can make, but we are of course in still in a system where profit is like the shining star that they need to like to go after. So that has happened like 3 or 4 times where like we really feel heartbroken, and even we have seen like people inside the company let go because times are hard and putting those efforts down. So those I think are like the hardest, where we seen that everything's ready to, and suddenly the company is backing down.
Mhm.
Uh, but even though like those experiences, and we have seen like some of our like allies that have gone through that move to other companies and bring all that learning with them, like to new spaces. Like I'm convinced like a change maker is a change maker for life. Even we go through those experiences where everything looks darker and is not on your decision scope to go through, but those people then move to new organizations and companies, and then we reconnect and move forward. So the amazing thing is that I I can confirm that impact and change agency is about the people using the whole corporate resources and a scenario to make a bigger impact. But even though sometimes companies need to take very hard decisions, those
Mhm.
change agents still materialize their conviction and their commitment to what they believe. So I think that's amazing. And some of the successes stories are when we are able to work with corporations to like with them on a long term. Like there's a big company here in Monterey where I live, that they had their foundation, and like 10 years ago they were just giving grants to some NGOs, and we have been working with them for 10 years and have been able to work together to a learning process where they have changed a lot of the way they do their philanthropic work, like from going to a point where they just gave money to now being this corporate change agent that decided to build up a whole strategy to transform education on the area or the municipality where they are at, they had built a high school, and now they're building a whole university campus because they were able to build up alliances with the government and some other companies in the region. So they went just to be giving money to a lot of NGOs like 10 years ago, now to be this whole transformation agent of their territory, working in collaboration with other companies, with the government, with education institutions, because they understood how powerful it could be to build up a clear vision, impact vision of the future. They pick where they really wanted to engage and contribute, and they have engaged in how can be strategic in doing it, not just like going through the easiest way to do it, but how can we be as strategic we are in the business with our commitments on impact. So
Mm.
it's like a whole different story now than 10 years ago, even though something I really like hearing is like they used to talk about NGOs as beneficiaries of when they were giving grants, and now they
Mm.
say they are our partners in
Mhm.
achieving what we do. So those small but very meaningful transformations in mindset and narratives, I think it's very powerful because now a lot of other companies are looking at them as an example and how can they evolve their impact strategies just from doing philanthropic work that's very important, but to go into more complex systemic changes and
Exactly.
embracing that role.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's really moving towards true systems change, and that's what it's all about. Okay,
Exactly.
we are running out of time, and I know there's so much to discuss, but there are questions coming in from our learners. So Domenica has a question about what has worked best to help people feel capable of creating change. And I love the point that you raised about how change making is about the people, and they carry that with them wherever they go. So how do we empower people to just feel that they are actually capable of making that change?
I think something we by design we use in every training we do is that
Mhm.
we need to give meaningful information, something that makes sense here, but we also need to touch the heart of people and to talk about what they really care and build up experiences where they can experience how does it feel to contribute, because I'm convinced that we don't have a lot of more people engaged in social impact because they don't know they can do it, but sometimes we're trying to convince people just through the logic and with information, and we haven't taken the time to help them experience and to connect with what's meaningful to them. So how do you do it instead of like of having like just maybe we have been working a lot with diversity, equality and inclusion programs lately, and you know a lot of the programs on the topic talk about um, all these bias that we have and a lot of information and concepts, but we have like this very quick activity where give everyone a role, and someone can be like a people or a woman with a disability, with any kind of age, or like everyone is playing a different role, and then we give them some like scenarios, but they have to connect on how that will feel being that role they got. So just
Mhm.
like small activities that might take 20 minutes, but that help people connect with different realities and empathize
Mhm.
with different realities, I think are very powerful in order to help them realize why is it important, not just tell them. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
making that connection, like we just finished a project with the purchasing area of a bank. And we were talking about like sustainability in the supplier chain. And our client, which was in the sustainability area, was kind of a skeptic on how much the people from purchasing will engage because it meant to have more workload. And we built up like a workshop on supply chain as a change agent. The people from purchasing were so excited and giving a lot of ideas, and like our partner in sustainability was like, I have never saw them as this excited and willing to do more and even contribute with the creativity because they just find out that being in purchasing was an opportunity to impact positively, and they just found it, and I think that that's very exciting if we
Yeah.
can connect, the brains and the heart. Like, how would you
Exactly.
say no to something like that?
Yeah. Well, still on the point then of empowering people to create change. Are there any particular skills that you think, as a change maker, it's worth taking time to develop those in order to be effective?
Well, definitely first empathy. I think like that's a base point to be able to go and open uh, the scope of what you see, and knowing that your reality is not the reality for everyone. I think
Mm.
like that's a very basic. I also think that system thinking, like recognizing complexity and how in complexity we can be strategic in moving a system, resilience and tolerance for the uncertain. I think that's very important, knowing that you don't know everything, and that we are experimenting all the time and that we were going to fail and we need to, like keep trying. And I also think project management skills, like on a more technical part, but developing the ability to set objectives and create a plan and follow the plan and organize workload and resources and evaluate the use of these resources and learn and then do it all over again. Like sometimes as a consultant, I feel like all the information is already there and we just go into it to organize it into an action plan. So those kind of skills of project management, I think help a lot to materialize change, to go from a vision to actual change or impact.
Right. Okay. Alma, I wanted to just backtrack a little bit to the issue of collaboration and co-creation that I mentioned, that we would definitely come back to. So when we're talking about partnerships and working with different organizations, and that being an actual driver of change, what are some of your learnings in terms of what has worked and what hasn't?
Uh, One of it is that partnerships and collaborations have to be strategic. We don't need to partner or collaborate with every possibility that appears. Uh, I learned from Ashoka this concept. I just forgot the word, but like who or which are those collaborations that if you consolidate that, you can make like a big movement in the system. So we had to learn on how to be strategic because collaboration and partnership takes a lot of time. And for us as a consultant, it's a lot of time that nobody pays, like doing all the work of like the networking, So we need to understand and be very strategic. And by that, I mean to make sure that it's that collaboration or partnership has a very clear shared vision, a clear understanding of the roles of each of the partners, the expectations, the commitments, the responsibilities, and the outcome that we are expecting to achieve by collaborating. I also think and have learned that collaboration it's harder than how it sounds. Like it's very obvious that we need to collaborate, but specifically when you work in team of teams, like bringing diverse teams together, it can be very complex and very challenging because then you bring different organizational cultures or leadership styles or different priorities to the table and ensembling like a puzzle that it's hard. It's like very artistic work. So knowing that and expecting that, not expecting that because then we can be more strategic about it. If we know from the start that there are going to be challenges. And I also learned that connected to what I was sharing is that the base of collaboration is a connection among people. At the end, even though we are representing organizations, the base of the collaboration is the trust between the people that are representing those organizations. So, taking the time to build up meaningful relations, not just on the professional surface, but also taking the time to talk about our dreams and our stories and like the wholeness that we are. I think that's an amazing base of trust that can support all the other complex things that come with collaboration.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I think we have to show up fully, right, with anything that we're doing. Otherwise, it's not really authentic. I feel even if it was at the professional level, as you said, I think there is a way to balance the personal and the professional.
Yes.
Um, but so just another slight left, and I'm trying to get back to what we had covered earlier before we ran out of time. I think it'll be great for people that are taking this course to hear from you what your experience was taking this course in 2023, you said, and what you learned about yourself through that and what you managed to do as a result of that course, just very briefly.
Well, I think we were coming out from the pandemic still when I took the program, and I really appreciate to have this opportunity to immerse in a global context. And actually, I learned a lot from the questions of my peers. Like
Mhm.
that gave me a lot of information of the challenges, the doubts, the uh, yeah, those to empathize and to understand the realities coming from a global context. And a lot of my peers were entrepreneurs working in corporations. So that gave me a lot of very valuable information to keep uh, improving how I relate with them and how can I offer value as a consultancy firm to help them and
Mm.
and and work together.
Okay. So that brings us to a question from Karen. Um, What practical advice do you have for those of us who connected with like-minded people in this training and now feel motivated to grow our impact? What should be our next steps after this course?
Uh, I would say take the time maybe to connect to what you really want to achieve in the long term. like to write a letter to yourself of what motivates you and what, knowing that this is hard work, what's like the vision at the end, then when you want to quit and go through the easiest path will keep you doing what you want to do. Like that I think that's very powerful. And also, find spaces with the people you have connect, and find that you have this like a special bond or shared vision to maybe check in every once in a while, like having a chat or sending emails, or like I have these people that I have found in my journey that I know that at least once a year I send them an email or invite them a coffee or have a Zoom, just like to check in, like how you're doing, how are your plans. And sometimes it's just like peer therapy, like, but a lot of the times amazing things have come just from those connections, because I think social innovation and the work that we're doing is so challenging, and we are touching all the time, um, and hearing and learning about the challenges and the struggles of the planet and the people, that we need to have that support community, that when you're feeling down, on when you're facing a challenge, you can have, I would say at least these five people that you know that you can send an email or have a Zoom check-in, and will help you reconnect to that impact vision that you're pursuing.
Mm.
So, yeah, and embracing that responsibility to keep alive those connections. Maybe it's just once a year, but you're still there. And if you need them or they need you or have something, a new learning to share, you can, that those relationships like,
Yeah, absolutely. I think we did establish from the very beginning of the course, even from our first guest speaker, Heiko, who you might remember as well,
uh-huh,
that the journey around social entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship can be quite lonely, and it
yeah,
really helps to have the allies around you and people who are like-minded, just to keep that fire burning within yourself and to know that you aren't crazy, you aren't you are not the problem. You're actually part
yeah,
of the solution, and there are others who are joining in that fight with you. So
totally,
yeah, great
totally.
point.
And that in those communities, somebody has gone through the struggle you're going through.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's like gold in this
Mm,
journey.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, we are fast coming to the end of our time, as I've said, but I just want to also just hear from you, Alma, having been on this journey with Unboxed, you said for 10 years now. I'm sure
Yes.
you've seen a lot, you've heard a lot, you've done a lot. Um, what are you seeing as some of the biggest opportunities that are out there for social innovation in the future?
Well, definitely collective action. I'm
Mhm.
like very into that concept. Like, I think these past years have been of activating those actors, like individuals and organizations, and like the story I told you about this corporate foundation that we work with, like, is now okay, you have done this amazing work. Now how you will start to build up these networks
Mhm.
with the diverse actors and also with your competitors, because the social and environmental challenges we are facing and we will face in the following years, there's no way we can tackle them alone. So activating collective action, I think like that's what I am bringing a lot into the conversations, in events and with our customers. Like, who else is doing this? Like, who else will be interested in contribute? Like, how can you start building networks and passing also from networks that reunite to learn to networks that reunite to act,
Yeah.
like to do stuff, like, because they are like the social investment network, like, okay, that's cool to get together and talk and learn, but okay, what do we have to share with the ones that aren't here, like passing, like, how do we act and start using all these networks and communities to share a lot more and bring more actors into the possibility to collective action. I think that's where we need to move forward.
Mm. No, I definitely hear you. There are so many, as you've rightly said, so many networks, so many communities of practice, so many, thinking and learning groups, but not as much action coming out of that. And it ends up
Yeah.
being, it's a talk shop and, nice ideas being shared, but tangibly, what is actually happening? So I
And
think that's a,
sometimes those ideas just keep like running inside the same people that already have access to it. So, like, okay, but how do we share this? Like, who is needing what we know or what we can share? Yeah. So, I think
mm,
also breaking up and go make those more inclusive, I think,
mhm,
too.
mhm. Right. And I think that can start with us right here. As we've mentioned, this is our last week on the course. There's been a lot of learning, a lot of thinking, a lot of sharing. And I think it's now time to act. And I'd want to hear from you what your words of wisdom are to those that have gone through this 6-week course and are now armed with so much information. They have tools, they have resources, they have the networks that are starting up. What should they be thinking about next?
Well, I think make sure that you finish with a clear 1 to 3 steps that you're taking in the following 3 months.
Mm,
Like, as said before, a clear vision of the long-term future, but very clear and committed understanding of what are your first steps, because those are going to take you to the next. So making sure, and maybe asking somebody from your network and the people who is like your peers to check in 3 months to share the stories about what happened after these first steps, to and that will help also to build up this community and support network. I think that would be very important. And also, I will invite you, or to challenge, to think like this all this what you learn here, who will need to know what you've learned and how you can share that.
mm,
Maybe some people inside your organization, maybe are some students or very young practitioners in your area or your company that will benefit to learn what you learn. Maybe it's an NGO that you know and that haven't have the access to this knowledge. Like, how can you multiply with those who don't have these opportunities? And like you receive a seed, where are you going to put that seed?
right,
And
right.
to try to think of those who haven't had these opportunities that we have had.
Hmm, right. Well, Alma, I couldn't have said it better myself, and I think those are excellent takeaways to conclude the webinar and the course itself. I think it really is about taking action now. So I just want to thank you so much for being with us today. I wish we had more time to dig deeper into all the insights that you have, but thank you for sharing what you've shared. And we wish you all the best for Unboxed for the next 10, 20, 50 years ahead.
Thank you, thank you. It's very exciting to be back again, and to know that we are a lot of people all over the world committed and aware of the power that we have as change agents, and we should be unstoppable together. So it's great also to reconnect with this community. Thanks for having me. And I would love just to share my contact
Mhm.
so we can keep together. I would love to hear uh, from some of the participants, and if there's anything that I can share, or the questions that kept open, or that questions that we can share and keep looking together forward to new solutions. I would love to keep the conversation. I'm in LinkedIn, and here is my email, so feel free to contact me, and let's keep on working together.
Great. Thank you so much, Alma. We really appreciate you. And thank you for the work that you're doing as well.
Thank
And
you.
so, for all of you who are watching today, I strongly recommend that you go back and rewatch this if you can. As you know, the course platform will still be open for another month. And I also recommend that you catch up with all the readings for those of you that have joined us along the way. And also make sure you finish the assignment if you haven't already done so. I've seen quite a few in the gallery, and I also noticed one or two people giving feedback to their peers, which is absolutely priceless. And thank you to those of you who've been doing that. So as I said, the platform is officially closing in a month. Well, officially ending this week. So from Friday, that marks the end of the course. Um, so if you do want us as facilitators to still be able to comment and interact with the discussions and the comments that you're sharing, and of course with the assignment, please get that in by Friday. And of course, you do want to earn your certificate, so hopefully you'll be able to push and finish all the modules. So after Friday, as I mentioned, the Ashoka team will no longer be able to support you on the content, but you will still be able to access it. And then next year in January, we'll be issuing the digital certificates for those of you who will have completed the requirements. And I hope that will be everyone. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, you can always reach out to the course team. And finally, there's a very short survey that we'll be sending you about your experience on this course. And that, of course, will help us to fine tune it and make it even better for future participants. So we'd really appreciate getting your responses to that by the 31st of December. And make sure you read the section of Module 6 that is telling you about some of the next steps that you can take. I think we've heard some very wise words from Alma about how we can move forward. And there are also a lot of resources that are available to you. So you can definitely get involved with that. Also, take time to share some of your reflections. We've had some amazing discussions and a lot of back and forth conversations, which I really enjoyed in the discussion forums. And as you've heard from today, connect with other learners that are on this platform and take it outside of the platform. Don't let it end this week. Let this just be the beginning of amazing things to come. And just a last reminder to you to click the button below the screen so that you can get your extra points for watching this webinar live. So that is all from myself and from the rest of the team, from Isa um, and Andrea behind the scenes. Well done for your outstanding efforts that you've been putting into the course so far. We do wish you all the very best as you move forward on your social entrepreneurship journey. Thank you and goodbye.